All right, everyone. Last looks. Quiet on set. Roll sound. Sound speed. Roll camera. Camera speed. Scene one. Take one. Market. And action. Hi, I'm Ed, the host of Savannah on Film, and we explore the economic and cultural impact and values of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. You can find us here on WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Hello, everyone. Hello, Savannah. Hello, the world. Wherever you're listening to here, welcome to another fantastic episode of Savannah on Film. I've got a gentleman here with me today who is a pioneer in the casting world here in Savannah and in the Atlanta area in Georgia. And he has done so many things, and it's great to have him back. He was originally on one of my first guests on the show back in 2018. And anyway, so what's our purpose here? This is Savannah on Film. Our purpose is to explore the economic and cultural impact of the film industry in Savannah through conversations with people who work in the industry and related fields. We are here on Savannah's radio station, local radio station, WRUU 107.5 FM LP, Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. Brings you the most diverse entertainment you could ever ask for. I want to let you know that we are on Twitter at WRUU 1075. That's WRUU 1075. And my guest today is Chad Darnell. And Chad is one of the architects of cultivating Savannah's acting community as a casting director, but he has become so much more than that. Aside from casting, Chad is a writer, director, actor, producer. I'm sure I'm leaving out a few more titles in there. He's now based in Atlanta, and he has acted in Hedwig and the Angry Inch, which we're going to chat a little bit about, which got very good rave reviews for Chad's performance there. And has many avenues that he shares his talent. And one of the great things that I'd like to spotlight people on this show about are people that give back, that don't just have talent, but they share that, they mentor, and they develop the next bit of artist. And Chad definitely does that. And he's going to be bringing his ever-evolving knowledge and experience of film, TV, and stage from behind the scenes to out front. And with that, I wholeheartedly welcome you back to Savannah on Film, the fabulous, awesome Chad Darnell.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Okay. I don't know. I could have had fireworks in the background and stuff and made it more
This is the third show.
monumental.
Yeah.
But I really do appreciate you taking the time. Are you in Atlanta as we're recording now? Or
In Atlanta, yeah.
You're in Atlanta.
I was not supposed to be in Atlanta. I am in Atlanta.
Okay, but wherever you are, I'm glad you're there. So you're mainly known as a casting director, but you write, direct. I'm just going to jump right into some current projects that you're working on, and let's just talk away and let's see where this goes. Undertaker's Wife. I think it's in post production. You shot it right before COVID, that dirty word that's ruined 2020.
Ruined everything and continues to. Yeah, I was cast in a play here in Atlanta at Theater in the Square called Moonlight Magnolias. So I was playing David O. Selznick in the play, and on the weekends, I'd had to fly after every Sunday matinee to Los Angeles and prep the movie, and then fly back on the red eye the day before the next show. And so I was on a plane every weekend prepping the movie, and then then flying out and shooting the movie. So we finished right before the last week of February. And in that last week, I had conversations with two producers who have a pilot that we've been trying to get sold for 14 years, Sean Hayes and Todd Milliner. And we've been trying to get this thing done for 14 years and had a meeting, and they want to take it back out. And the scheduled first meeting was the day that everything shut down in Los Angeles. So it's, once again, it's on hold again. I swear that pilot is cursed. But then in that time, I was still, trying to fulfill my responsibilities of casting. So as soon as we finished the movie, I went back to Savannah to cast the second season of Florida Girls. Right. And we got put on hiatus for 2 weeks, which became 4 weeks, which became indefinitely, which became canceled completely. And so I've been just doing a lot of writing, and we've finished the cut and color and score on Undertaker's Wife, and I start sound mix next week, which is the final mix of the film. Right. And in July, I was hired to direct a Christmas movie, and then that got shut down. So, we finished casting here in Atlanta, and then that got shut down because the numbers went up in Atlanta. And so I was supposed to start, since that shut down, my producer on that, who produced Undertaker's Wife, he said, well, come to New York and we'll shoot The Intelligent, which was my next film. He said, well, I was supposed to shoot that in LA to start with. And then he said, rewrite it for New York, because now he's in New York. So we set it in Brooklyn, which right now is the hot zone. So, yesterday we were looking at a map, and it's like even the cleanest area in Brooklyn, you can't have more than 20 people in a gathering, and our crew is more than 20 people. So it's right now indefinitely possibly on hold. He's going to make a decision the next day or two. But looking at that map, there's no way it's going to clear up. So yeah, 2020 has been awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if we're looking at the second or third wave. I've lost count at this time. But you get those little hot spots, and unfortunately, it's not just wrecking the film industry. It's wrecking everything related to the film industry, everything that's not related to the film industry.
Restaurants, catering, the having to go to a store and buy costumes. It's shutting everything down. Wigs.
And probably, if you have to have stuff shipped, it's a strain in the system to ship cross country or wherever you're shipping, materials to, and it's just crazy. I wanted.
New York they have a 2-week quarantine right now, and so you have to quarantine if you're going to New York to work at it. If you're in a hot zone state, which we are, then you have to quarantine for 14 days. The Department of Health in New York and the Film Commission, they work together to help get me an exemption, because I have to be, as the director, I have to be tested a lot. So I did get a full exemption where I can only report to the soundstage, the studio, and my hotel. But now, I'm sitting in Atlanta and not in New York.
Yeah, and you should be in New York right now. I know that must be frustrating for you. This is, I'm not going to get preachy here, but I'm a pro masker. I believe in, protecting. I've basically been in my little bubble here, which for an extrovert is really hard.
Yeah.
been really difficult, but it's allowed me to work on some skills that I've got to hone a little bit more. So, but it's so necessary. And, had we done it right the first time, maybe things would have cleared up or we would got a little lull in things. But yeah, Georgia, we could have done it better. A lot of places around the country could have done it better. And I just don't know how long people can stay, you know, on lockdown or whatever you want to call it, in their bubbles and because we're free roaming people. That's what we do. And especially in this industry, I
People
mean,
would just wear a mask when they're roaming. I mean, it's just the simple
it is a
things. I
simple
mean,
thing, it's not a political thing, or it
no,
shouldn't be.
it's
It's
not.
you care somebody else. It's like, I
Yes.
care what happens to you, Chad, and I hope you care what happens to me. So, if we were ever to meet in person, we would be
Yeah.
social distancing, we'd be wearing masks. That's just how I
Yeah.
am with everybody. And from losing family members, I haven't been exempt from that. We lost a family member during this. And it comes up quickly. I don't want to get political here, but the powers that be that are in charge, some of them are for wearing the mask, and some even get infected and don't wear the mask. I don't get it, but I just gonna.
And some people have their entire Oval Office in quarantine right now because they refuse to wear a mask and have not. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a political thing, but it's
Right.
obvious that masks work and people need to wear a mask and wear a freaking mask.
Yeah,
Then
please
we can
wear it
all go back to work.
so we can all exactly, because, and that's the point I was getting towards, is that yes, it's slowing down the reopening, because as we're recording this in October 2020, Regal Cinemas is closing down. I think literally today, as we're recording this,
Yeah, yeah.
um, 40,000 people will be out of work just right off the bat there, and it may be a temporary temporarily closing. I can't say the word. But I saw an article that I posted on Savannah on Film. I reposted there on our Facebook page. Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman 1984, and some other great stuff, talking about, is the movie going experience being in the theater, is it going away? Is it going to become a thing of the past? And I hope and pray it does not. You know, I used to live in the theater. I was able to venture out very safely to go see Tenet, and I did see Empire Strikes Back, the 40th edition. Which, if you can see my background here, I'm a big Star
Yeah.
Wars fan. So, if anything was going to pull me out of my bubble, which I stayed within my bubble, but we were only three people in the theater, and we were all socially distancing, wearing masks. AMC, I have to give them props, because at least our local AMC here, and because they had every kind of precautionary measure I could think of, from the ultraviolet light in there spraying before and after, social distancing, everything. And the theaters are trying. And I don't want to see AMC close, but they may have to temporarily close, especially if Patty Jenkins Wonder Woman
And now they're talking about
push.
pushing it again. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
supposed to come out around Christmas, and now they're talking about possibly May,
yeah,
unless they've already pushed it.
because they pushed the Bond film, and like everything else that's been
Yeah,
pushed before it. And during the
June.
pandemic, I don't know if you've had the opportunity, but I got to rediscover or discover, really, drive-in theaters, and I have seen some more lower budget films that probably would have never got the light of day, had we, if we roll back the clock, let's say 2019, and we think of Disney had 7 films that made over $1 billion. Okay, imagine if 2019 was during COVID, what that would have been. And Disney, they're hurting. Their parks are closed. They're losing about $1.5 billion this last quarter. And thank gosh that they have other revenue streams, but theaters, we can't afford to lose theaters. We can't afford to lose that experience. And you probably agree with me on this, but there's nothing like, and I'm a big sci-fi fan, so if there's a new Star Wars film, I want to be there opening night. If
Yeah.
there was even if it's a smaller film that, that's in a small niche, I want to be there opening night. I want to be there at the first showing when those people are the most energized fans, and there's nothing like it. And there's this unnatural um, need to consume copious amounts of popcorn that I would never eat except
Sure.
in the theater, and it's just
Yeah.
the whole experience of it. And that's the movie magic. And seeing Tenet, it was great to see it. I got to see it in Big D, but um, I mean, there was only I think might have been 10 people in the entire like Big D theater. So, and we were so far spaced out, it was incredible. But I don't want to lose that experience. I miss the theater. There's a hole in my life where I know I'm supposed to be sitting in a theater enjoying all these great films that people are working so hard at. And anyway, I didn't mean to go off on that tangent there,
No,
but
I get it. I get it.
it's just, you understand it more than others because you're one of those people that that is behind the scenes there, that's making those decisions, that's doing the casting. So I've got to ask you, during the era of COVID-19, I know casting has changed. I think the face to face is safely to say it's gone at this
It's
point.
gone. Yeah, no, it was always so important for me to do in-person casting in Savannah because
Mhm.
I need to be able to work, because a lot of times I'm dealing with actors who are not as experienced as the actors that are in Atlanta, just by virtue of their training and the resources that they have to training. Because there's only so many classes that the teachers in Savannah can teach,
Right.
and any given time. So I mean, if 15 or 20 people are taking classes, that's cool, but I have to read upwards of 250, 300 people. So where are those people getting trained? So it's important to me, if people are not being trained, that I work with them in the room and give them alternate takes and really work with them. And I won't be able to do that anymore because everything will be through send them the script and hope for the best. I mean, that's the problem. But then the risk there for production is we don't know if that was the first take that they did or the 97th take that they did.
Wow.
So when they show up on set and can't act, it happens on every movie when it's a self-tape audition, and especially here in Atlanta because everything in Atlanta is pretty much self-taped, and so you get a teenager or young 20-something playing a teenager, and they're terrible in the first take and the second take and the third take, and then the director pulls them aside, and
Like
suddenly they start looking at the extras like, well, who can we recast here? And it's a thing, it's a real thing. So yeah,
but they're in a different zone, and then with COVID,
Yeah.
they might not be able to cross into A or B zone or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And that you bring up a very good point, and I was wondering that. I was wondering because when you're face to face with someone, even though like we're hundreds of miles, via Zoom here as we're doing this video, and it's personal, but it's still impersonal. It's having the person right in front of you. You can see the body language. I'm sure you can tell that better, and you get a feel.
You don't know if the person's crazy or not, which is a big thing in casting, like, because you don't know if, I mean, seriously, like you don't know like what that real personality is, or if they're going to be difficult. That's a huge thing about, and you're absolutely right. And the other thing about the COVID casting, like when I was casting, when I finished Undertaker's Wife and I had to go to Savannah to cast for Florida Girls, the precautions, like at the time, nobody really truly understood it. It was just wash your hands a lot and here's some sanitizer.
Right.
Like nobody really had a grasp on it. But I mean, it was starting to get to that point where the production manager walks over and knocks on your door and says, so we might take 2 weeks off, because we thought that was going to help.
Yeah.
But one of the last people that I read on one of the days ended up being one of the first people in Savannah to get COVID.
Wow.
And that was a little terrifying. But, because immediately you're trying to get tested and they're not doing any testing for people at the time. And I mean, I didn't, shake hands with anybody. I was wiping down everything. So, I mean, I felt like I was doing everything within my power. Even the spacing of the room, we didn't understand 6 feet at that point.
Right.
But I was smart enough to like keep
we still don't know that 6 feet is enough.
True that. Yeah.
We saw
Definitely wasn't wearing a mask. Masks weren't even things. And so that was terrifying.
Yeah, and it's that unseen enemy. It's that unseen thing where just you don't know. I feel fine. And then boom, you're heading downhill, and unfortunately you're taking a bunch of people with you. If
Yeah.
and the virus doesn't care who you are or where you come from or who you love or whatever. It's going to take all of you. That's just the reality of it. And this kind of makes me this is a question I wanted to ask, an observation and something, because I know I've turned down some stuff locally because of COVID concerns. I know there was a production that had some COVID issues, and I didn't respond to it, because I didn't want to be involved with that. And this was, early on in the pandemic, or when they're trying to restart things. And my concern is not the big productions. It's not the Disneys. It's not the, I don't know, Warner Brothers, whatever, studios. It's not the big studios that are spending 10% of their budget on all these, DGA approved, PGA approved things. I'm worried about the film students that are doing their senior thesis, or their films, or the young filmmakers, the local filmmakers, the low budget, the ultra low budget, or please for free films.
Yeah.
They don't have money, and this is no slap in the face to anybody, but they don't have the money for the precautions. And I've heard the opposing argument that they're going to be even more concerned because they know how important it is. But I see people on Instagram and Facebook, and I see them in between takes when they're sharing the little videos and such and their TikToks. And sometimes they have masks on. Some people don't have masks on. Some people are, too close. And, I know people are trying their best, but you let your guard down for 1 minute can make all the difference. It could save your life, or, the other way.
And it's not just that crew member, it's the people they go home to.
True.
Because they can infect that person. And that's right. That's the major concern. Like the film that David Brown, my producer and director's wife, he's producing Intelligent. He produced a movie called Fallout right in the middle of July, August. Mm-hmm. And they had to put together a 20-page document for the unions about their safety protocols. Right. And when you look at it, it's not that difficult. I mean, it is not like you're asking people to wear hazmat suits. You have to have a compliance officer who has done the training. Right. You have to have somebody who's doing the testing. It has to be regularly. And if you do the work, you can make your film. Right. My friend Haviland Stillwell, former Savannian, former Alderman Brooks Stillwell's daughter, working actress in LA. She and her partner just produced a movie. It was a low budget and indie in Los Angeles, and not a single case of COVID. They did all the testing. They did all the protocols that you have to do. The film that I'm planning on making in Palm Springs in January, which now we'll see if that has to get pushed because of the other movie. We're going to make it SAG ultra low budget. So yeah, it's going to be in that $200,000 budget, but a chunk of that is going to be for COVID. That's not stuff that you can get in kind. Like you have to buy the PPE, you have to buy the cleaning stuff, and that costs, the testing, that costs money. The other stuff in a town like Palm Springs, where we all know a bunch of people, where normally you might not be able to get beg, borrow, steal. Like, can I shoot in your house? Can you donate a meal? Yeah. Can you bring your own costumes? Like, it's going to be a very small crew of 10. I mean, it's going to be hard work, but the people that I'm working with on it, they come from a background of filmmaking that works very fast. Mm-hmm. The DP and the editor are both professional directors and editors as well. So we're all going in and producing this together. So like, I'm not taking a fee as a director or a producer or as an actor. Like, we'll all get paid a stipend, but I mean, that's a huge chunk of your budget right there.
Right.
The
And
editor and
it's
the
been
DVD,
estimated to be about, at least for major productions, 10% of your budget. So now you've got 10%
or more. Yeah. I mean,
or
it's like
more.
when you take
Yeah.
all the above the line off of it from the
And
top.
yeah, one of the things is with ultra low productions, do do they even have access to that turnaround testing, that some of the studios can get it done within 24 hours, or if you
You
have
have to ask around for it, but like most, like in Palm Springs, there's a place where we know of a nurse that does the turnaround within 20 minutes.
but
So, and it is getting cheaper. I mean, that's the good thing, because like even a couple of months ago, it was like $150 a test. And that rapid testing is getting cheaper,
yeah,
for a production like this, because we have so much, thankfully, there is so much testing now for anybody. You or I right now can hop on CBS and find testing either
right.
today or tomorrow. And it doesn't cost us anything. And so, yeah, the workarounds are getting a little better, and hopefully by January they'll be even easier.
Right.
But yeah, our huge chunk of that budget is just going to be the testing, because there's going to be no content in a few months,
That's
and that's the
extremely,
thing.
yeah, yeah. I follow a lot of that, and yeah, we're gonna be seeing reruns of stuff from way back, because
Yeah,
we're running out of new content, and so it's got to come from somewhere. And but if there's an upside, at least industry wise, I feel like some of these smaller films have finally got, if you're an independent filmmaker, you possibly have a better chance of your film maybe making it to the big screen, maybe making it to if there's a local
1000%.
theater, something we need in Savannah. um,
Definitely the festival circuit, because I mean, I was on a panel last weekend with Out on Film here in Atlanta, and it was a bunch of like the filmmakers that were like, I think they had won, like there was like 20 filmmakers that were on there, and I was there because I live here, and I was involved in Out on Film, and I asked the question. I said, how many of you are like working on stuff right now? And only two people raised their hands, and I said, well, what are the rest of you doing? And they were like, oh, I'm not doing anything until there's a vaccine. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's going to be no content. And these are the people that always are pushing out films. And I mean, because they're concerned about the budget, and that's obviously a concern. I mean, it's a conversation that we have about The Intelligent every time there's a conversation about the budget, because for a film of that cost, because of the crew, because of the trucks, because of the base camp, because of all of those things,
right.
for a budget that size, you're looking at $100,000 right off the top on
Wow.
$1 million budget. So a film that's $200,000, when you've only got 10 people, it's a 10-day shoot, you're in one location, you're outside for a lot of it, those protocols they look a lot different. And again, we're also looking at private investors who will help underwrite some of that for us as well. But again, with a project like that, if you can get it for under $200,000, with some of the production elements that we have, we should be able to sell it overseas for a little bit of money, and here domestically, and maybe take it out, like you said, even the drive-in movies. If you go around and you hand distribute this movie in a theater, you could do well. There's of course, Kelly, is that his name? The guy that did why am I not thinking of his name? Independent filmmaker who's a horror guy. What was the horror movies with the sphere that have the little razors on it?
You're stumping me.
It's not Hellraiser. It's
um
oh, why am I not thinking of his name? He wrote a really great book about independent film,
yeah.
and about how his last film, he hand walked it into these major theaters
Wow.
and brought the act, and he ended up making his money back doing it the independent route. So yes, to answer your question, you're absolutely about to see the return of the independent film. That was the rise of Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino, and
Yeah.
that rise that happened in the 90s. So yeah, that's the one good thing to come out of this, is that the independent filmmaker is about to have a
Do
big.
you think, though, and that's a great thing, for independence. Do you think the quality level is going to be, generally speaking, lower?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, it's not. I think a lot of these hard, like my budget on Undertaker's Wife was pretty on par to like most other
Mhm.
low budget horror movies of that ilk. Like, but I mean, even like The Conjuring was made for like under $1 million, and the actors took all their points in the back end. Um, the film looks beautiful. The score is beautiful. Like, I'm really happy with the production values. I'm not worried about it looking cheap.
Right.
Um, Installation, that's questionable. I mean, when you're looking at $200,000, what we are trying to do with it is keep the beauty on the screen. So that story is a very Hitchcockian thriller. So, these houses in the mid-century modern architecture, we'll be focusing on that in the picture. So the production value, it'll look very beautiful. The cuts and the costume will be reminiscent of Hitchcock's films. And again, you've got a really good story. So keep it simple with the acting and make sure it's lit and you can hear it, and it should be okay. I mean, it sounds simple, but
What
it is.
you touched on a very important point. I was about to make about it all starts with the story, and I know films that are being rewritten to accommodate the times we're in.
Yeah,
Mhm. It's kind of like if you think about I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but back in what 1917, 1918, the last big pandemic, you wonder why people looked a certain way in photos, and it was because of the pandemic. And so we are learning to live with, and hopefully the vaccine will come along. It'll be trusted enough and tested enough and safe enough, and people will get it and we'll be fine. I'm an optimist, so I believe it's all going to work out for the better. I believe that 2020 is the year for us to hit the reset button, to really self-evaluate, to slow the heck down, and get to work. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
sure,
reassess,
absolutely.
and
I
then
agree.
2021 it's just a springboard to greater things. And I feel like the creativity 20 well, we already know the scheduling for all these films that are getting pushed back to 2021 is going to be ridiculous. There's going to be, if you're talking about tentpole movies, there could be 4 to 5 Marvel films in one year. And I worry if that's going to cause burnout of that genre.
Yeah, it's possible. But even then, it's like some of them I think will get pushed off or rewritten because
True.
of budgets.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, because they're going to have to make that money back on Black Widow. They're going to have to make that money back on Wonder Woman before they.
That's unfortunately, and I have not seen Mulan. I didn't
Yeah,
feel like, even though I've got Disney Plus, I didn't feel like paying $30.
yeah,
Like, it was a little outrageous to see the film. It was released in China, but China didn't take to it the way I thought they would, and apparently there's some differences in the film from the cartoon. And of course, you have to make changes
right.
like that. But the whole situation of streaming versus, there was a little argument between some of the theater chains and the studios, because like Disney, they put Mulan out, they get 100% of that profit. They don't have to share it with the theater or any kind of vendors or whatever. They can create their content. It's a good business decision, but they're not making the kind of dollars that could have been $1 billion film, probably
Yeah,
easy. Black Widow could conceivably be $1 billion film. You will not make $1 billion on a streaming service. It's
no,
just not mathematically possible.
no.
Now, adding a couple hundred million more, at least, subscribers to your service. And so I can see the bean counters, as they were, the people that crunched the numbers and saying, let's just push it to when it's safe that people can watch this. And it's just I don't know. Everything is a question mark. 2020 is just a question mark. And but as we're into October now, I think I think we should just kind of call the year. I mean, at least for box office, we had a good
Yeah,
2 months, and almost 3 months. But I think Wonder Woman's going to get pushed, and that's going to be like, with Regal, the decision for them to push No Time to Die, the 007 film, basically a year back from the original release date, um, was a death nail for Cinemark, that I think owns Regal. So in the UK, of course, they just they said we're going to shut down. And I don't know. I wish I would have probably bought stock in Zoom back in January,
Mhm.
and ownership of a drive-in theater would have been nice. I might be sitting pretty now, but good things can come out of this. Gosh, there's so much to talk about. I want to delve into Undertaker's life and a few other things. We're gonna have to hit a quick break here, so everybody stay with us here on Savannah on Film with the fantastic Chad Darnell. We've got so much to talk about, and we're gonna be right back after these few announcements. Okay.
All of us here at WRUU want to thank you for the more than 3 years of the best radio on the air in Savannah.
Do I have a
Thanks
second?
to your listenership and loyalty, we were named Best Local Radio Station and Best Local Talk Radio in the most recent published readers poll in Connect Savannah. In the past, we have had a party to salute you, our listeners, and those whose extraordinary time and talent got this radio station from dream to reality. But this year, because of the novel coronavirus, we have canceled our annual in-person celebration. This cancellation was in addition to a large number of other live fundraising events that we also have had to cancel. So this makes our annual on-air fundraising drive more important than ever before. We will be having our annual on-air fund drive from October 11 to October 24. So stay tuned and donate generously.
This is a message from the Georgia State Department of Public Health. Social distancing means minimizing contact with people. It also means that if you are near someone in public, try to stay at least 6 feet away. The less contact people have with one another means the less opportunity for the virus to spread. Slowing the spread of the virus means that we can keep our healthcare system from becoming overwhelmed. More information can be found at dph.georgia.gov. Disasters don't stop even during a pandemic. The Red Cross is here to help when disasters strike. They respond to a disaster every 8 minutes. They help people to prepare for disasters, and they help prevent disasters such as home fires. The Red Cross saves lives by providing blood. And now, free COVID-19 antibody testing is available when donating blood with the Red Cross. More information about Red Cross services and donating blood can be found at www.redcross.org. This is WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
And we are back here on WRUU 107.5 FM, LP, Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And we've got Chad Darnell back on the show here, live and in the flesh. Well, not in the flesh, but, via Zoom from Atlanta. And we've been talking about casting and everything. I want to talk about some of your even more creative efforts. One of your current projects, Undertaker's Wife. Tell me a little bit more about the story, or whatever you can tell me.
Yeah, it was a really great experience. It was a little challenging. We had a docu-series that followed the entire making of like an extended EPK that's being kind of cut together that'll showcase the entire from pre-production to post. Shannon Sossaman plays Sarah, and John Brotherton, who was on Fuller House, plays Jack. And then I had a really great supporting cast: Ashley Fink, Sarah Colonna, Mark Singer. And it's a little thriller about a family that moves into a funeral home in the South, and their first night, something really bad happens, and they try to cover it up. And it was scheduled as a 15-day shoot. I got ahead a day early, so they cut off a day of filming, which is I don't recommend ever. Don't ever try doing that in the future to be a hero. It'll screw you in the end, because then you're just you're working a lot harder on those last few days. Pro tip. And then we were supposed to start post immediately, and so I've been having to edit remotely, which has been not great, because you can't sit behind the editor and say, what about this cut? Let me see this, pull that back. Instead, you're just getting chunks of the movie and then you have to sit down and watch it, and then go back and like, I want to see this. I want to see these shots. I want to see this. It's
See if it
created
flows.
10 times more work than had I been in the room.
Right.
And then you're having to watch the movie. Somehow it got loaded incorrectly, so it wasn't the right aspect ratio.
Okay.
So then you're watching it knowing it's not the full frame of the movie, and then it got fixed in color correction, but then you're having to now watch the entire movie with a different setting for the score, and it's a nightmare. COVID has been a nightmare for post-production, and now I have to sit through and do the whole thing again with sound. So with the sound mix, which, as you know, sound is very, very, very important to the movie.
Extremely important, and you can't skimp on that. That's the thing.
No.
You can have the
But
best.
it's a great experience. I mean, we very short days, and because I knew what I wanted, and I had an incredible director of photography, Igor. He's going to be shooting The Intelligent for me as well, which I'm really. When I got to hear that he was going to be on Intelligent, it made my life so much easier, knowing, because we have an unspoken. I can say just a few things and he gets it. And he's Russian and funny and moody. He's like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. I'll ask him, how long is this going to take? He's like, oh, I don't know. It's going to be like 2 hours. And it's like, okay, great. And then like, I'm not even to the bathroom, and they're like, they're ready. I'm like, grr. I knew, like, why did, it's like, oh, it was not going to take 2 hours. And so,
You don't like it?
no, yeah. He had this thing that he kept saying, super sex. And I was like, you can't say that, Igor. First off, it's sexual harassment. You can't say it, but it's a Russian thing, apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, no, he's great. And the film looks beautiful, and I'm excited.
So what is The Intelligent about?
The Intelligent is, originally it was set, you're talking about rewriting scripts for COVID. It was set in the Hollywood Hills. And so that's why we're going to shoot it in LA, because you can't really get that high, the setting, those houses and the trees and the overlook.
I don't think they're there anymore. I think they burned.
They're burned down.
The whole West Coast burned down.
Yeah.
Because 2020.
Yeah, so we were planning on shooting like the interior of one house and then like the exterior back part of another house, which would be in the hills.
Right.
And it was, but it also, that original script called for like a lot of extras and a lot more characters. And so what we did is we ended up cutting almost all the extras out of the film, rewriting a lot of the scenes. So it was only no more than 3 actors in any given room at one given time, just cut down on the pods for COVID. So we pretty much COVID-proofed the script, even down to like the male and female leads. In order to create intimacy between the two of them, he's a photographer. And so he's, as he's walking through the house at the beginning, he's taking pictures of the house, but he's also taking pictures of her, just so we can create that distance, but also intimacy between the two of them. So it had to be really tricky in like how we would shoot things, and and shot listing stuff for the actors and management to look at, so that they don't feel like their client is in any danger. So it's an actress in the Hollywood Hills who buys a former haunted home. And she does not believe in ghosts, and she does very quickly.
She gets convinced. Right?
She's all in. She's
like, okay.
There's a reason she stays in the house. So
I like the old Eddie Murphy joke where he says, a couple walks in and they hear boo, and they're like, boom, I'm gone. Okay, I don't need to see the rest of the house. It's like, that would be me. That would be me.
Yeah.
Okay. No haunting today, please.
But I based it like on all my experiences in my haunted apartment in Savannah.
Yeah. I remember you talking about.
That's where all that stuff came from, and so we'll see.
So let's see. Did we talk about Forced yet?
Forced was that was so much fun. So when I did Hedwig and the Angry Inch, John Cameron Mitchell, created the show. There was this whole history of the show. He started off in like small bars when he was workshopping it, and then he took it, to a drag club, and then eventually took it to the Jane Hotel, where it had a very successful off-Broadway run.
Okay.
He did the movie, that he directed and played the lead in. That movie went on the film festival circuit, did really well. And then, of course, recently it went back to Broadway. But the Forced is about his experience of taking the film Hedwig and the Angry Inch to St. Petersburg in Russia, and the reaction that the LGBT community had to the film, and about the atrocities that LGBT people face in St. Petersburg and in Russia, and the beatings and whatnot. And it was based on his diary of that time, that week that he was there for the festival. So each scene was a day out of his diary. And Forced, John wrote it as a short play to be produced in your home. So like actors and theater companies that can't produce shows right now, it was meant to be done as a Zoom theater or like online theater. And so I was the very first person to get to do it. And having studied John for so many years, with the play and toured, I feel like a groupie because I went to see him in DC when he did the Origin of Love tour, which was the Hedwig. It's Hedwig right there.
Yeah, I was going to say, in the video, I'm trying to point to the video. We can't see on the radio, but in the video.
Yeah, oh yeah, you, that's right. We're not on the, but I have a Hedwig mannequin, the costume, the wig, in my apartment. Yeah, so I got to be the very first person to play, quote unquote, John Cameron Mitchell. So it was very meta to have played Hedwig for 2 years and then played John, which is discussing Hedwig. So it was a really.
It sounds like a Nolan film. It's like, what's
Inception.
Inside of an inside of a.
Yeah. No, but it was really hard. It was really, really hard because when you're shooting an entire film on your phone and you only have the rights for one weekend and you're directing the whole thing yourself and you're playing John, and it's also this very emotional thing by the end of it. But I was really proud of it, and it got really great reviews for the people, the critics that saw it. So. And
I don't think we mentioned, but you've won over 30 awards throughout various film festivals.
Yeah, for Groom's Cake and Birthday Cake. Yeah, my first films. Yeah. Yeah, and
so you're quite accomplished in that area. But this is fascinating about Forced. So it's kind of like COVID kind of dictated how this would go. I mean, and this is a way that filmmakers are finding that they can do their films in this area.
Yeah, and it's and really more theater company because it was through the Dramatist Play Service, which is one of the major houses they own the rights. They hold the rights for all these plays. And so they hold the rights for Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And so they asked playwrights to put together plays, which was called for a series called something like, I want to say it was like Please Stand By or Technical Difficulties or something like. There was a name of that, like basically you can't go see a play right now in a theater,
right? So
you can experience a play in your own home,
right? I mean, I've seen on YouTube where there's been like Scott Pilgrim. They got all the actors together and they via Zoom or whatever on YouTube. They were able to, reenact the film, and it was fun to see that. It's a different interpretation, It's not Shakespeare, but it's. But
no, and like with Scott Pilgrim, and like I think the West Wing just did a reading of a script recently.
Yeah.
Like there have been a lot of playwrights, and people have been trying to, read, I've been doing a number of script readings, on stuff that I've been writing.
Right.
And just did one for installation last week, and that's sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're really boring because you're just watching an actor read from a script. But with Forced, it was a full performance. It was, everything had to be memorized. Everything, it's a full theatrical performance. It's not just me reading a diary.
So how did getting to do Hedwig on stage and all that? How did that change your life? How did that fulfill a dream for you?
Yeah, because it's hard for me, having been in casting for so long, it's really hard for me to get cast because I know that there is a prejudice against me because it's been there for 20 years. There is a prejudice against me because I was told by a casting director many years ago, well, you need to decide, are you going to be an actor or a casting director? And I said, I'll be both. And
Yeah.
and I have. I don't believe anybody should tell you what you can or can't do.
Right.
I did theater the entire time I was in casting in the 90s. And sure, I mean, I would never put myself in a film. And if somebody were to, like on Magic Mike XXL, Channing wrote a role for me. And it was a role that I did not want to do when he pitched it to me, because he's like, you'll be one of the strippers. I'm like, this does not look like a male stripper. And so, he made it as a joke. But in order for me to have been a part of the film, production had to pay a fine, because the casting director or a crew member cannot be an actor in the film. But it's like, it was his movie and he didn't care. And he had also heard me improv with all of the actors in auditions. So it was like a little gift that he gave me. And it's the gift that keeps on giving, because those residuals are awesome. So thank you, Channing Tatum.
And that was an Academy Award winning film, if I recall.
It was, and my performance was nominated as well. Vampire Stripper #2, I think, was my name. But again, those residuals.
On your license plate.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's like I don't get. I mean, I have a really great agent in Atlanta, and he works really, really hard for me. But Atlanta's a gigantic market, and a lot of the actors get hired. If you look at my audition come in, and then you look at 4 other people, and you see that they have 30 credits for 2020, well, of course you're going to hire that person. You know, you always go with the more experienced actor, quote unquote. Right. And when you look at my resume compared to theirs, yeah, I'm not getting the opportunities, and that's why I'm making my own movie. You know, that's why I'm doing installation.
Well, let's talk. We're running a little close on time here for the radio portion, but let's talk about installation real quick. Tell us about that experience. Tell us what's installation about.
I tried to get it done. It's a hard movie to describe without giving a lot of the plot away.
Yeah, you
like
don't
I said,
give too
very
much.
Hitchcockian thriller about a couple who they've been together for 4 years, and one of them decides to open the relationship up for one night, and bad things happen. So the way that I've been pitching it is, if Alfred Hitchcock were to write and direct a movie about a gay couple in Palm Springs, this is what it would look like. And so it's been really fun, like bringing in the Hitchcockian element of the birds and the perfect murder and
Hitchcock.
And the Hitchcock blonde. You know, all of those things are in the movie. And what's fun is, like, the people that were on the reading the other night, they're like, I totally see this as a Hitchcock movie. So it's like, it's got all these really great twists, and it's one of the few films that, like, when I've gone out to make offers to actors on, they have jumped on it, even though the subject matter and the script, you know, like what's in the movie, you know, the love, you know, that's thing that they all jumped on it. And I wrote it 7 years ago, and unfortunately one of the actors is in Germany, and so, like, he's out, and the other one's kind of aged out of the role at this point. And so we made an offer yesterday to a new actor who's also a singer, and a very well-known singer. And so hopefully we get back from that person soon. But I'm excited, because it's like, I never get to act. And, you know, I got to act in Birthday Cake. I got to act in Groom's Cake. I won acting awards in both of those movies. And yet I can't get a one-liner on The Resident. And I'm fine with that. You know, it's like, because you can't be, all you can do at the end of the day, and so many, and every actor out there listening to this right now understands the exact same thing. You will get auditions from your agent, and you'll be like, why am I getting this audition? I'm never going to get this part. This is not me. And all you can do is do the best audition that you can for that role, because you might not necessarily be auditioning for that role. You might be auditioning for something else. It's not about this audition, it's about the next audition. And more importantly, you have to be grateful for that audition, because that is an opportunity for you to be in front of that casting director. So you might have auditioned 200 times for The Resident and not gotten a one-line role, but they still keep calling you in. So that's
they'll remember you if you get.
I remember you, and they know who I am. You know, it's like, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'd never want to sound like I'm ungrateful. But again, what I'm trying to say is, you cannot put your fate and your career in the hands of a handful of casting directors. If you want to act, go out and write your own movie and try to get it done for $200,000 in Palm Springs.
During COVID. Yeah.
During COVID. So it's in case you don't have enough challenges already.
Right. You know, because if we're going to stack the deck, like, let's stack the deck.
What else?
Yeah, what else?
Wildfires.
What else? I tell you. Well, where can people reach you if they're trying to get a hold of the famous?
So the best place is on Facebook. I'm at facebook.com/Chad Darnell Casting. That's my public page. My friends are my friends. I keep that separate. And then on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Chad Darnell.
At Chad Darnell. Well, we're going to close this first portion of the show, and we've got a lot more to talk about. So hopefully you've enjoyed this new episode here with Chad Darnell, and we've got so much more to talk about. So we're going to end the radio portion here on WRUU, but I'm talking to the future now. Join us right after you hear this Saturday night. Or as you're hearing it right now, I guess I'm projecting into the future.
Yeah.
Join us at 8 p.m. on YouTube, Savannah on Film, where we'll continue. We'll have the video premiere of this, and you'll get to ask your questions and comments to Chad Darnell, casting director, actor, director, producer, singer, I guess.
Yeah, I was in Hedwig, I sang. Yep.
That's true. That's true. All righty. Well, we're gonna roll the credits here and the outro, and stay with us, and we'll see you on the radio again. And thank you, Chad, for joining us here on Savannah on Film. You have been listening to another episode of Savannah on Film, where we give a voice to the Savannah film community. Please like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. This program was originally broadcast on 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and worldwide on www.wruu.org. Join us next time for more intriguing insights into the vibrant Savannah film community here at Savannah on Film. And we are back. Welcome to the future. Here, Savannah on Film. I'm your host, Ed Ciucevich, and we talk to people that work in the industry and related fields here. You can always hear our show on WRUU 107.5 FM in Savannah, Georgia, and on the internet all the time at WRUU.org. And we're here now on Savannah on Film YouTube channel. And so everybody, I hope you've enjoyed the first hour, and we've just scratched the surface with the various talents of my guest today, returning to Savannah on Film, Chad Darnell. And welcome back, Chad. And we've been talking, we've touched a lot on COVID, which, it's that little thing that won't go away, and how it's affected the industry and how we are moving forward as an industry. And I'm trying to figure out my technical difficulties here behind the scenes. Okay, so anyway, but we're doing a lot here, so we're talking about a lot of things, and Chad's he's won over 30 awards for films that he's been involved with. He almost single-handedly has helped cultivate hundreds, if not more, actors' careers in the Savannah area and Atlanta and probably other places. Chad brings with him a wealth of knowledge about the industry, the inner workings. And here's where I want to pick your brain and get some really hard advice for actors when it comes from a casting director's point of view. What are some good things they should do, and what are some things they should not do?
They should absolutely be training, number one. You have to have training. And right now, so many classes are online with Zoom classes. Almost every major acting, you're not limited to just to Savannah at this point. You could be taking acting classes in New York, LA, Atlanta. You can be taking anywhere. And there's no excuse for that because you can literally take an acting class anywhere. So training would be the first one, and creating your own content, being involved. And right now that's not so easy to say, but I mean, your iPhone is a camera. So you should try experimenting with creating content through that. I know a lot of people in Atlanta have found success through TikTok, and that might sound, like an eye roll, but I mean, it's getting their eyes on them, and they're getting recognition from agents and branding, and they're making money through that. So as far as like what not to do, it's hard to think, because I'm not a proponent of like telling people, well, you can't do that, because I've been told that so many times in my career, and I've just said, watch me. So I don't think I really have any advice that I would say, don't do that. I would never pay an agent for money. I would never pay for an agent, never pay for a manager. If there's some sort of Disney showcase that's coming through town and is looking for you, no, they're not. They're not looking for you. That's not how it works. It's not how any of this works. Just be smart on scams. And I would, just, yeah. I mean, I as far as like what not to do, I think those are the big things. Try to avoid the scams.
And I know some people personally that have been hit by some of the scams, and there's
let me hold, please. Do your due diligence on people that suddenly land in town and claim to have all these credits. I mean, recently I learned that somebody had 1,000 credits. They didn't list any of them, but they had 1,000 credits, which is cool because I've been working in film for 30 years and I have 115. So they're clearly doing something better than me. And when their quotes are, does the best job ever, signed a director, but no director's name, that might be a sign that that person is not on the up and up. Just be smart about.
Sometimes it's as simple as misspellings. Grammar.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, if you know how to do a press release or whatever, there's a certain format and a certain way, and in these days of social media, if somebody puts a winky eye or whatever, an emoji in there or something, or they just use poor grammar, that sometimes that's a red flag,
Yeah, no, but I saw this one thing come through recently. I was like, what? 1,000 credits and you don't list any of them? Okay, go on, sis.
If I had 1,000 credits, I would be listing them, at least some of the biggest ones.
At least one.
At least one. One we may have heard of. So probably, of course, this goes without saying, but don't be unprepared when you.
Definitely be prepared. Absolutely. Yeah, that's acting 101.
Yeah. You've taught, you kind of in a way or inadvertently teaching acting. Have you ever?
No, I taught in Savannah. I had started base camp in Savannah, and I taught, for years down there. And I haven't. I've been teaching a lot of workshops, for free through these Zoom classes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Doing a lot of talks, for universities and different acting schools. I'm going to be a part of the Atlanta Actors Summit, which is coming up in a couple of weeks here in Atlanta. And I highly recommend it to anybody because it's going to be like all the power players in Atlanta, casting directors, agents, directors. I'm teaching a workshop with several episodic directors, and it's going to be based about getting direction from an actor in COVID times, but also like what's the relationship and what to expect between a director and an actor on set. Because sometimes I think some actors think that they are number one on the call sheet, and some actors run like little mice and try to avoid the director. And there needs to be a relationship, and there needs to be that comfortable exchange when you're on set, and there's just ways to go about it. And I think a lot of times actors, that's not a class that's taught. And especially for directors, how to talk to an actor. So it's going to be a class for both directors and actors.
It's like one thing that I've seen, because I'm connected to a lot of social media in the industry and other websites, and is the fact that some people don't teach enough of branding as an actor.
No, let's don't use that word.
Is that a bad word? Okay.
It's a bad
Educate me, okay?
because what happens is an actor will say, that's not my brand. Baby, your brand is whatever role I can put you into. So Ed, I could make you a nurse. I could make you a mountain man. I could make you a lawyer. I could make you an attorney. I could make you somebody on Guardians of the Galaxy. You are an actor.
You can make that happen.
Now, I am a type. I get that. But I'm not going to look at something and be like, that's not my brand. That's not a thing. You're an actor first and foremost. Now, your marketing tools, how you market yourself and getting your name out there, your headshots, your videos, how you discuss on social media, like that, how you put yourself out there in the world, that's your marketing. But there's a problem that a lot of people in Savannah see, because there's these branding classes, and that's not a thing. Branding classes is not, you need to learn how to act before you become a brand.
Right.
Paris Hilton is a brand because Paris Hilton makes billions of dollars a year. Nobody's making money off of their type in Savannah, Georgia. So please learn how to act.
Wow. That's why I have you here on the show, because you bring a kind of honest truth that kind of cuts through a lot of the BS, as it were. And
marketing and branding, two very different things.
Well, I just got educated. I just got schooled, and I'm better for it. I know that, and I know my audience is too. And
your audience right now is like, "Oh God, Chad, shut up."
He's dropping bombs. Boom, boom, boom. Well. Oh, just you wait. No, but gosh, what else? Is there anything else on this topic that you need to take?
I think that's good.
Okay. I love it. So we talked about like what advice if someone was just starting in the industry, and I'm going to stop saying the word COVID-19 because I'm sick of saying it. What advice, somebody's just coming into the industry and they're scared to death of COVID-19, what do you tell them?
Wait until there's a vaccine, because baby, sorry, like you gotta come to play, and you gotta be ready, and you gotta be safe, and you gotta be taking classes. But like, we don't got time to like pussyfoot around you while you're feeling unsafe. Like it's
okay. We're about to do a truth, no dare here, but just truth. Okay, and I'm sorry if this makes people uncomfortable or whatever. You don't know what's coming, but Chad, but I want to ask people, I want us to have a discussion comparing and contrasting Savannah's film industry versus Atlanta. You are a veteran of both. You almost single-handedly created or cultivated at least a big portion of this current boom that we're in, for which has kind of stalled.
Yeah.
Before COVID, kind of stalled. I have faith it's coming back, and roaring back is what I'd like to see. Let's talk about, and we can touch on a lot of areas. We can talk about infrastructure. We can talk about, let's lay it all out on the table for everyone to see. I'm sorry if anybody's feelings get hurt, but it's it's called show business, right? It's not called show friendship or whatever. So okay, let's start the discussion. So,
well, I think that the biggest thing, the market in Savannah is definitely growing. Finally, I think what's interesting is that we have to hire as many locals as possible, because on these smaller budget films that are happening in Savannah, which are great for our people getting booked on for have the experience and build the credits and resumes, they need to hire locals, because you're adding like $700 to $800 a day in housing, mileage, and per diem to bring somebody in from Atlanta, where that could be an actor out of Savannah. Problem is, a lot of these casting directors are getting jobs casting in Savannah, and they don't know where the Savannah locals are. And unfortunately, they're not interested in hearing, I'm not represented by somebody in Savannah, so help, like, please see me, because they just don't read them. I've been on several projects that I was hired and then unhired because the casting director didn't want to share credit with me, where I knew where all the bodies were buried in Savannah. And when you watch that movie on Amazon, you will see that there are very few Savannah locals that were hired.
There was a bit of a controversy. You know where I'm going with this one.
No, it's BS.
Someone taking credit for a lot of the work you single-handedly did, or
that's
had a major part. And we'll try to keep this as G-rated as possible, I guess.
But I will say that there is a local university that continues to take credit for, quote unquote, placing people in movies. They placed over 500 people in movies in Savannah and TV shows. No, they didn't. They did not. Even the credits that's on the dean's bio are not credits that I even cast anybody from that university in. Right. And it's a blatant lie, number one. I had Sydney Schaefer, who was my incredible assistant for a number of years, went to that university, and occasionally we brought people in that she knew, and on 8 occasions I cast people in principal roles over the 30 films that I cast in Savannah.
And isn't there a difference between principal roles and background casting?
1000%. Like,
there could be a differentiation, correct?
Did you go to a university that said we placed over 500 people as extras in a film?
Right.
No. Would you spend the most money at any college university in the country to be placed as an extra in a film? No. Did they place any extras in the films? No. I mean, that's the thing. It's like on most of those films, I was the extras and the principal casting director. Mm-hmm. If they submitted to be an extra in the film, I cast them. Like, I did not reach out to this university and say, hey, I need 30 beautiful people tomorrow. That never a conversation was had by that. So if they want to send out a letter to their entire student body and say, if you worked as an extra or a principal on a movie in Savannah in the past year, let us know. That's cool. Why are you taking credit for that? That would be like, I used the example, I said that would be like the CIA recruiting me for McDonald's and McDonald's taking credit for placing me in the CIA. That's exactly like.
Do you get fries with that? I'm just curious.
I guess you do. Like, well, maybe they did. I didn't get any fries. So yeah, and it is a university that, we've all been threatened, like, don't say anything bad about that university, they'll ruin you. Well, I don't care anymore. I don't live there anymore. And I'm tired of them taking my credit. I have been told by powers that be that I have to apologize to them for like snarkily stating things on my Instagram. What my one favorite story was like, apparently you said something on Facebook, and I said, no, Instagram. I have far more followers on Instagram than I do Facebook. And well, you need to apologize. I'm like, that will never happen. It's never going. You're taking credit for my work. Right. Why am I going to apologize to you for taking credit of my work?
Taking credit sounds like plagiarism.
Yeah, so it's
intellectual.
But that's not a problem that we have a lot in Atlanta, because if I guarantee you that if that person took credit for one of the other casting directors' work here in Atlanta and claimed that they placed people on The Resident or any of the other shows that shot in Atlanta, that casting director would have. I know one casting director that would have that person shot. I mean, it's like, it's not. Go on, sis.
Okay.
But it's like it.
There. Okay. I'm not here trying to trash said university, which we did not mention the name of.
No, I didn't.
We're just bringing up a relevant
article for Forbes taking credit for my work. We did not say that. So.
Okay. Yeah. We
Forbes magazine.
Because they have done, in fairness, they put some fine professionals in the field, and they're continuing to do that. So, but it's just that I know this was in a situation, and I just wanted you to have your say on it. And that's that. Some of
The thing is, I wouldn't be so angry if they would just take down my credits from their bio and website.
okay.
And I have been very vocal about the fact that I know that you are lying. Please do this. I mean, I will seek legal action if I have to.
Oh dear.
But right now, it's no, I will do it. I mean, it's like I will gleefully pay for that cease and desist. But it's ridiculous at this point that you are using my credits to attract people to come to your school. And bottom line is, that's exactly what you're doing.
Then said institution should pay you. Anyway.
I can be bought.
There you go. But what I want to also kind of talk about when we're talking about not just like solid infrastructure, we always talk about, yeah, we need a sound stage. Everybody says it's coming. It's coming. Well, COVID came, and there's another reason why it's not showing up. But do you see us? We're not on the level of Atlanta. Let's be honest. Atlanta has Tyler Perry Studios with I forgot how many individual sound stages there, and that's just one portion of a small portion, but an important portion of the Atlanta film industry. I know several people that have gone to Atlanta because they're not getting jobs, especially in higher positions in the industry. The industry here, we're thankful for everything, and we're not this is not bashing the Savannah film industry, but we're not on that Atlanta level. Black Panther 2 isn't going to be produced in Savannah. More than likely it's going to hit Atlanta, or we may get part of it. I'm just as an example. What can we do? What can Savannah do? And I know people at the Savannah Regional Film Commission, they're doing a wonderful job, Beth and everyone, and they're really bringing a lot into this area. But what can we really do? Hard facts on what we can really do to bring these bigger productions here, to have them stay, to have them, set up a home, while at the same time doing what I call only Nirvana could come out of Seattle. You know what I mean? By that, building our Savannah base of talents. We don't need just PAs in all these different departments, which that is great. I'm not knocking that. Don't misunderstand me. But what can we do to get more solid roles, to get more cinematographers or more training for sound, sound mixers or whatever, makeup and hair, whatever, what more can Savannah do?
It's like chasing the dragon at this point, because you've got to, for me, it's, I was living in Savannah up until May of last year, and I had one project, I think, that I had between January and May. One film. And that was extras casting, and I made like nothing on it. I did it as a favor. And then all of these other projects are going to people who don't even live there. Central casting got Lady and the Tramp. Chase and Tara got the principal casting on it. The Act, like all of these projects are coming in. I'm local. I'm living at I was living at the corner of Liberty and Bull, and I can't even get higher. So I think that I don't know what the answer there is. I hope that and I'm sure that Beth and Katie and Nandy, everybody, they're talking about these are the resources that are here in town, especially when you have a local casting. I'm actually, casting's part of the incentive for Savannah, hiring local talent, hiring the local casting director.
Right.
But when you can't make a living, and I was having to pay rent in Atlanta, an office in Savannah, an office in Atlanta, an office in Savannah, and home in Savannah. So I'm paying rent on 4 places just so I can cast. And I can't even, I wasted money in Savannah for 6 months. And then of course, nothing happened after that. I couldn't get on anything. So it's like, it was a good move for me to break my lease and get out of Savannah. I've always said, I'm trying to get out of casting. I was just down in Savannah a couple of weeks ago to do some writing, and I met with a production coordinator, and she said, I always put you up until you say no. And I'm like, no, absolutely. Like if it's a Savannah-based film, absolutely suggest me for casting.
Right.
Because I mean, I've invested so much time and energy
You know
in
the
the city.
talent in this area.
And I know the talent, and the talent's got to work. And so I'm the best shot at a Savannah local getting hired because I know where the talent, I know how to work my networking groups that, you know, Rebecca and John and all the guys that run the networking groups in Savannah, the Savannah Filmmakers Pool, the Savannah Actors Pool, the Savannah Extras Pool.
Right.
They've all done such a great job of creating that community within the talent base there that I see no improvement to be had there because they're literally doing everything they know to do to keep people engaged. And if you're not networking and a part of them, you need to be. As far as the local crews go, it's hard because I mean, I know like crew members that have moved to Savannah and they're not getting hired. And then, you know, they move, like you said, they move back to Atlanta. So I don't know what the answer is there because we have the incentive for crew people to move to Savannah to pay for the move, you know, see if they'll pay for your move. And,
on this show, I mean, I hope that we're helping. I hope this show is assisting people to give a spotlight to some, especially, you know, up and coming talent, not just established talent like yourself, but hopefully, you know, we're shining that spotlight. That's one of the intentions of this show is to raise up this community and get everybody to that next level. But it's I'm a broken record here, and I'm not the only one to say it. But we have to put some skin in the game. We have to invest in it. We have to
definitely. I mean, it's a broken record player. We have to have a studio. I mean, that's number one.
When I won't mention the production, but one of the productions that came through town, 95% of the invoices came from LA. You know,
wow,
that says something. You know, that says a lot. Can't 50% at least come from Savannah? You know, can't we have enough? We have an old Regal that closed down before the pandemic. It's just sitting there, you know. I think, you know, I don't know what's going to become of that. You know, we have I pass buildings on I-16, which Interstate 16, and I'm like, that would make a great sound stage. Every time I pass that certain building, I think it's blue. You'll know what I'm talking about. And I mean, it's a great location for it. I'm like, you know, you could do some renovations there, some soundproofing, you know. I look at Savannah Mall that, you know,
there's the old Kmart.
You know,
so many places that
there's so many opportunities. And I know that I want to applaud SCAD for one. I grew up here in Savannah, so I remember growing up and going downtown when I was young. My mom would take us downtown shopping, and Broughton Street was still thriving. This was, I think, into the 80s. And then I guess it was the 80s to 90s. It was the 80s when everything moved to the Oglethorpe Mall, Savannah Mall opened and all that, and everything went to the malls. That was the thing, and downtown was falling apart or in disarray. And a lot of areas downtown. And I know SCAD has been vital in revitalizing a lot of Savannah, especially downtown. And they can't be commended enough for their efforts and their investments in that. So, I mean, we have institutions that are doing wonderful things that are working on that infrastructure, training those next people. The Savannah Tech, John Grace is leading the Georgia Film Academy program. I'm a product of that. I have several friends who've come through that program, who've greatly benefited from that program, who've gone right to work on several films. And yes, of course, you're not going to walk on an Ang Lee film or a Disney film as a whatever, you know, a sound mixer or whatever. You know, it's not going to happen. You know, you're going to start as a PA, you learn, you work your way up, and that's fine and dandy. But we've got to get to a point where Savannah gets to that next level. Okay, we can be the pool of background actors. That's easy enough. You know, as hard as that is, it's easy enough.
Right.
We need the studio. We need at least one little sound stage. I prefer big than little for a sound stage, but we need some multifaceted location, you know, just maybe Tyler Perry can come down and, buy up a little bit of property and we the fairgrounds, boom. There, we've had opportunities in Savannah. We've got the tax incentives. We've got the Savannah Chatham County one plus the Georgia tax incentive. It should be paying off. We should be saying, well, we're breaking ground on this soundstage. And if we get stuff like that, grip that in electric, they could use a good, studio house or whatever you want to, the terminology is. We need to really do that if Savannah is serious about it. I think of Bo Bowen. He put on the fantastic Savannah Film Alliance gala last year, and there's apparently not going to be one this year, I guess due to COVID. It was a fantastic event. I know you were there, and that's a step in the right direction. I can see a lot of people and organizations doing good things, but it's going to take more than just that, and I don't know that I have the answer. It's something that I try to always insert into every show, because you can't expect to live in a mansion if you haven't built the foundation. I mean, we've built the foundation, but we don't have the first floor constructed, and you can't get to the second floor until you build the first floor, and it's, so I don't know.
I think it's going to be a moment of like, once everything is back up and running again, we're going to have to wait to see where the dust has settled afterwards, because I think some people have moved out of Savannah. So I like, who's the crew? Like I know there's been changes and like people taking different jobs because or whatever their situation is. So it's going to be interesting to see like what happens when it comes back. But
people have left the industry because right now the industry isn't still functioning, unfortunately, or their side gigs have become their permanent gig, or they've got added another side gig to their side gig, or they can't do their side gig because of COVID, or whatever, there's so many, and COVID's the big. There
was a film that was going to Savannah, and I was working with someone who was supposed to be helping with the testing, the COVID testing, and people were quarantined, and we knew then, because the numbers were going up in Savannah for COVID, that it wasn't going to happen, and those poor people didn't even know yet. And it's until COVID is, until there's a vaccine and there's a real handle on it, it's going to be. I mean, Florida Girls is done. Lionsgate canceled the entire show, so it's. I think this is a sort of an early conversation, because everything's going to change. Once the market does. And what could happen is once everything opens back up, people may want to shoot. Everybody might head to Savannah, because
that's what I'm really hoping on. I'm hoping that the floodgates will open, and then people will say, okay, it's safe to come outside now. It's safe to, and then productions are all over the place.
We have a better tax credit in Savannah than we do in Atlanta. And that's not for nothing. And depending on the budget of your film.
And I've said on the show before that, people that crunch the numbers, they're going to follow the money. And wherever they can save money, especially with these protocols that are going to have to continue at least into 2021, if not longer. We don't know how long this goes, and they're going to go where the money is, where they can save that money, and then maybe that 10% that they lost, they're getting more of that back because of the tax incentives. And I'm just hoping the floodgates do open back up, and that's the optimist in me saying, it's the industry is going to come roaring back, and because Savannah still has so much to offer, and I think we have such a bright future in film, and it felt like we were on such a momentum, and then Savannah has its peaks and valleys. It seems like every decade or half decade, I don't know, we rise up, and then it's like the stock market, and then it's like, wow, we're, and it's feast or famine, and we just got to learn. We've got to plateau it, but get higher and higher with the productivity and the amount of productions. And I really wish that we could invest more somehow into our local filmmakers, the up and coming filmmakers. And I know that's easier said than done. And when it comes to putting money on the line, that separates the people that are really passionate about the film community versus the people that are like, well, I don't know that I can afford that. And I understand, that struggle, but there comes a point where we've got to say, okay, here's Savannah born talent Chad Darnell. He's got this film, I'm gonna back it, and
I just don't think that there is that person in Savannah. I really don't, because I mean, with all of the digging and the relationships and the people that I have worked, I mean, I feel like I've gotten to know access to every moneyed person in Savannah, over the past 6 years.
right.
And I had The Telling, which was a movie that I was trying to get made, and we couldn't find a financier for that. Darlene, we tried to get that finance out of Savannah and shoot in Savannah. We couldn't find it there. I think that it's just the people, those wealthy investors in Savannah are not into the idea of investing in film because it's a risk. And no matter to return the rate of risk, I mean, that's why Installation is such a small budget movie,
Mm-hmm.
because of the subject matter, because of the genre, and the fact that we're going to have to do it in 10 days, and we have to keep it low budget. But with the actor that I'm going out to for my film, the value is in him. And so that's how we're able to show the numbers. Like, well, he was in this band, he he had toured this many people, he has got this following on social media. It's all that stuff that goes into an investment. You cannot, it's very difficult to make an independent movie under $1.5 million where you do not have name actors attached to your movie. And if that's the case, you got to have at least one or two of them. And they're on what's called a Schedule F, which is a SAG document, which basically says you own them for $65,000 plus points. And it's just a contracted kind of thing that SAG has come up with. It's called the Schedule F. And sometimes you can attract a name actor for 4 or 5 weeks at $65,000, and that includes their travel but that's $65,000 you better fork up if they accept that offer. And we ran into the same problem with Darlene. It's like we would get these actors attached to the film, and then the money wasn't there. So then we lose the actor. So it's this. Yes, it would be lovely to find somebody in Savannah who's going to put up $1.5 million for a film, or even $500,000 for a film. But it's
always that return on investment that they're interested in. If we're putting the money up, you got to show us the return on investment, and somebody's got to take that plunge. And I know somebody who put a decent amount of money, not that much money, into a film, and the film didn't really do anything. It's gone to festivals, but nothing against the festival route. There's nothing wrong at all with that.
Did they have a name actor or somebody involved with it to help sell it?
They did not. So
Yeah.
that proves your point there. That proves it was an excellent story. And but yeah, it didn't really go anywhere. And they had a lot going for them. It was a solid idea of a film, and their marketing seemed to be done really well. But I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that Savannah is like this, but growing up here my entire life, I've seen sports teams that have come through, and until we got the Savannah Bananas, it's like they're really more entertainment than they are a baseball team. They're like entertainment that does baseball, and they do it really well. But we had an indoor soccer league that I was like really into, and then like I think in the 90s, I can't even remember who they were, but I didn't really care about soccer, but I cared about soccer, Other than that, and then Reba McEntire coming, and Brooks and Dunn in the 90s, and tractor pulls at the Civic Center, and stuff like that. I mean, that was the kind of stuff we used to get in Savannah. And maybe with the new arena, if that comes to fruition, we'll have bigger acts come through here, and maybe that'll bring in more people, more highbrow people that will want to call Savannah home. And there's just, I don't know, there's just but my point is, I think, is that Savannah like the Savannah Symphony was a thing. We supported it for a while, and then it's like we lost interest. Savannah is hard to keep its interest level. Like, we are adamant about films, and I think the Film Commission has done a great job to keep the focus on films, and like I said, what Beth and everyone over there is doing is great. Um, I feel like they're doing all they can, but there's a missing element. There's that capital, that money that has to be infused in, and someone's got to be first out of the gate and say, okay, I believe in this script so much. Maybe the next Forrest Gump or whatever film, I don't know, the next great idea, they put money behind it, and then it takes off. It becomes, the small little surprise film. I miss those films that, like Parasite came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And a fantastic film.
Yeah.
I know this is, maybe I've learned that this is not a great word to say, but Blumhouse, they've learned.
No, they're great. They're fantastic.
I've heard that they don't, that they kind of are a little chinchy on paying like they should, their crew or whatever. I don't know that. In fact, I had a guest tell me that. Yeah, but they can put out a film, spend, I don't know, $9 million on a film, and it opened at $30 million, and it's already made its money. I think we've learned the days of, and this kind of ties in a little bit to COVID with the industry as a whole. I don't think you're going to put $120 million film budget out, at least in 2021, until we know things are back to a new normal.
Yeah.
I don't think blockbusters are gone, but I don't think you're going to put out that kind of money. You've got to look at the bottom, the return sheet. You've got to look at the money and see if you're going to get a return on your investment. You can't afford to. We've seen a bunch of films come out that bombed, that should, on paper, got the talent, got the director, got the, blah, 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 and then should have been great, but they were, or people just didn't respond to them. Taste change in the film industry, and so, that's one company. It seems like they found their niche or whatever, and they're running it good, for better or worse. It seems like they're doing it right, and I don't know everything. I don't pretend to, but we've got to find, maybe we get a production company, and there are several in Savannah, but one that has capital, that's able to raise that kind of capital and produces, we need that breakout film that, made in Savannah, from writer, director, producer, blah, 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 Savannah. They employ all these locals, and they get the tax credit, they get all that, and that's what we need. And I'm hoping 2021's the year. I mean, I think about, and I've said this on the show before, I saw this back in like 2008 during the last recession. It was a billboard. I was just driving down the road, and it said, Bill Gates created Microsoft in a depression. And I'm like, wow, right now would be a great time to invest in someone's idea, their film or films, and start building. But, because there's a lot of talented people, there's a lot of great ideas out there, and we don't want to just see reboots and sequels to everything. I want to see original stuff. I want to see more homegrown stuff get national attention. So,
Yeah.
I'm looking at some of your projects in development here. I've got pulled up. We talked about The Intelligent. Where are you at on, and you can answer however you need to on these, The Heart. I see you're casting.
I was just supposed to be casting that, but apparently it's, it was another one of those movies that we started casting it, and then it didn't happen in Savannah, and then I heard like back in January that they were looking to like start back up again, and then COVID happened. So who knows? I don't even know if I'm attached to it at this point.
I'm one that's and you'll have to explain to me turnaround. I should probably know what that means, but Joey Stefano, your writer, director, producer.
Still trying to get that made. I mean, somebody had the option on the script, and so turnaround means that it's available again.
Okay.
That their option is out, and still trying to get that movie made. And I think that once Undertaker's Wife and The Intelligent is released, and we get it onto whatever service we get to, and depending on what happens with Body Farm and with installation, I feel like end of next year I should be able to get Joey Stefano made, because I'll have the momentum at that point.
And that's really a passion project for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to get it made for almost 20 years.
So maybe someone's watching this, maybe someone will see this, and maybe someone will say, I need to back Joey Stefano's the film by Chad Darnell. Producer, director. You know, and that would be great. That would be fantastic. And then if that happens, you got to promise you'll come back and talk about it. So we talked about installation. Darlene, we talked would you rather not talk about that? We can move on.
No, it's just frustrating. I mean, there was somebody that's, you know, local to Savannah that promised the sun, the moon, the stars, and ended up not having any of the experience that was needed to make this movie happen. And kind of took advantage of the investor and spent some money that shouldn't have been spent. And then there was another person involved that, come to find out, he extorted a bunch of money from somebody else that had nothing to do with that film.
Oh, dear.
He was off the project. And then, the current producer right now, just, God love him, he just doesn't have the experience to fundraise money. And honestly, at this point, it's like I wrote the script right after the election in 2016, and it was supposed to be a satire. And I just, right now, we're in such a hellscape that I don't think it's a movie that I would even want to make right now.
I get that. You know, 2020's changed a lot of things, a lot of everything. It's changed every facet of it.
It was Mary Lambert was attached to direct it, and she's, technically, until that option runs out, which is probably run out by now.
She's quite accomplished.
She's great, and I love working with her. And I wrote another film that she's supposed to direct called Ascent from Darkness, which is based on a book.
What was the next one I was going to ask you about?
She hired me to write it around Christmas of last year, so I was like having to write that, prep Undertaker's Wife, and I was in rehearsals for Moonlight Magnolias, and it was a challenging project because it's based on a book, an autobiography of a guy who I'm not trying to laugh. It's about a guy who was a Satanist, who was a Christian, who became a Satanist because he just didn't like Jesus anymore, and then he decided to become a Christian again. And I had so I was very, I was excited that the producer was a Christian. I was excited to get to tell the story. I definitely had a through line in that I thought was awesome. The real guy did not necessarily like my first take, and then I had to write a completely different second script on it. And they're all happy with that script now, and that's all that matters. When you're the writer for hire, you write what they want, and so I did, and they're happy with it now, and they're trying to shop that script.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that, it's back to Darlene. I had a conversation with Mary's agent because they want to still try to make Darlene. And I said, at this point, because it's my script, what I would probably do is not make that movie, but take the characters and put them into a different movie. Because the characters are hilarious, but I would not tell that same story. And there's an idea that I pitched years ago called Trailer Park Murder Club. And so that's what it would just be, like the same characters in a completely different story.
Okay.
And then I would direct that. But that's all.
Well, that's interesting. I think about films being pushed back and how relevant things become, because we're super excited for like the James Bond film, or I am,
Yeah. Wonder Woman.
Well, I will care in April when it comes out, Wonder Woman, we've been Black Widow, all these, and then how will I feel in a year from now? I'll be like, oh, okay, finally. Hopefully my mind will be blown by all these films and the smaller films too. There was um A Quiet Place too was probably one of the first big films that it was my most anticipated film of this year. And I was heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken when it got pushed back. And, that started everything for me. And it was just, that was an ascent into darkness of 2020. um, but let's see. What was I going to ask you? Hmm, I don't know. I can't think now. You have I'm seeing 4 films here that are in post production. That you casted for The Collected.
Oh yeah, so that movie, in fact, the actors don't even know about this update yet. We started shooting it, and there was we had to shut down, but they will be starting back up again, hopefully in February, March, to finish the film. But it's been, I think we wrapped like a year ago now. So we've got to, it's got to be finished. It's the 3rd sequel to the Collector movies.
Okay.
Mark is amazing. It's just so much fun. But he, it was like, there was this technical thing that had to happen, and then he lost his sister, and then dealing with that, and then COVID happened. So it's like, this, you think it's
Life gets
COVID.
away. We talked about Undertaker's wife. What about Reckoning? It's Citizen.
Oh, we shot that in Savannah. That was we cast majority out of Savannah-based talent that worked on the movie, and I forgot the guy's name who directed it. It's been so long ago. He Daniel is his name.
Please stand by. Adam,
yeah.
Lipsius.
He, lovely guy, writer director, was really excited about all the Savannah talent that we cast, and like I said, we cast the majority of the movie from Savannah, and that was because I was living in Savannah at the time. So it's it was a great experience.
What about Chasing Nightmares?
So that's a movie that first time writer director. It's a movie with Anne Heche and Jay Hughley and my producing partner David Brown. He produced that movie in LA, and he asked me if I wanted to cast it, and I was, hungry and needed food. So.
No, I understand that. One of the big things we didn't talk about, like some of the current stuff, like that came out, Emperor, and I know we had Patrick Roper on, who had a part in that, and a lot of people were in that film, and he was supposed to go out for the red carpet, and then they pushed it up, and then of course COVID happened, and then it didn't get the theater treatment it probably deserved. What was your experience on Emperor like?
Oh, that was, it was so much fun. The director, Mark Amin, and Cami and Reggie, the 2 producers, and Aaron Charles was the line producer. And it was so much fun because Mark got so excited about actors, and we did, that was another movie where we cast a lot of people out of Savannah. Mm-hmm. He just got so excited about playing with them in the room, because he would come. I'm on my desktop computer right now, so my desktop computer was in my office in Savannah, and he would come in every day, and he would just lean in really close to my screen and watch the auditions, and then we did some callbacks for a couple of days in his office, and just getting to watch him kind of play with people, because he's primarily a director. He's right. This was his sort of directorial debut, I think, and he was a great director. But they did the best. My favorite part of that entire story is that they came up to Atlanta for some reshoots, mm-hmm. and I was doing Hedwig in Atlanta at the time, and so they wanted to come see the play. So it was all the producers and Mark and his assistant and Aaron. So we saved them the front row, but they weren't there when the curtain was supposed to start. And like once the show starts, like nobody can really come in because I'm all over the space. And so we held for 5 minutes, and Aaron texted me like, "We're pulling up now. Like, thanks for texting the actor." And so I'm like, "They're coming in. Save 5 minutes." And so they get in, they get settled, the band's playing. I come out, I'm doing the show. And for like a good 7 minutes, Mark keeps leaning over and talking to the person next, like loudly talking to the person next to him. And I'm on stage and like, I'm 4 feet from him. And I want to look down and be like, "Buddy, what's going on?" Because, you know, Hedwig talks to the audience. And I finally, at one point, I just turned and looked at him, and like with a look, and like everybody in the audience said, "Do you want to go? Please finish your conversation." And so after the show, I walk out because my first question is, "Why were you talking?" And so I round the corner, and he comes bolting over the stage with his arms outstretched, and he grabs me in a huge hug. I said, "I did not know that was you." And I went, "What?" And he's like,
And you're supposed to go acting.
all the, and all the producers, they were dying laughing. They were like, we kept trying to tell him that's you. And I'm like, "How did you not know that was me, Mark? I'm literally standing right in front of you." Because with the makeup and the wig and the costume and everything, and the accent, apparently my accent was so convincing that he didn't realize. "I thought Chad was in this." I'm like, "That's him right there." And they kept pointing to me. And that's the other thing that was so confusing. I'm like, "Why are they pointing at me?"
Yeah, like,
And
what's wrong?
yeah, and I mean, I worked, not only that, I'd worked with him for 3 months on the film. And then like at that point, I've been working for 2 weeks on the reshoots, and like, "And you didn't realize that was me, Mark? Thanks." It's like the highest compliment you could pay me. But he was great. Did you freeze? You froze. You suddenly froze.
And sorry about that. If there's any problems with the video, my computer had a total meltdown. We were just having too much fun here with my guest Chad Darnell talking about things here. So I totally lost my place in the interview there, but it took me.
Yeah, no.
But you were talking about your experience when you were doing Hedwig.
And Emperor, yeah, Mark and everybody, yeah. So yeah, Emperor was a great experience. Great film.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna pull you up here again. I'm just pulling up my resources here. There we go. Go back. Chad Darnell. So I apologize again to everybody out there that's watching. I'll have to kind of clip this together. We'll see how good my editing is. So we got through, well, we didn't talk about all 115 of the titles, which we're not going to. So we talked about Ascent from Darkness, Darlene, Installation, Joey Stefano, The Intelligent, The Collected, Undertaker's Wife. I hadn't really missed much. We talked about.
Yep.
So what else is there that you wanted to mention?
I feel like we got everything in there. Yeah, just I'm excited about hopefully shooting again soon with I mean, it's super frustrating when you spend months at a time prepping a movie, you know, working like one, the 80s Christmas movie, rewriting the script with the writer and the whole casting process. And, you know, every day I have a stack of books this high in the corner over there of 80s movie theory and John Hughes. And, you know, there's all research that I did that's like all down the drain until maybe next year. And then to go from that to start prepping The Intelligent and then have Brooklyn kind of go bonkers with their numbers. It's you know, it's super frustrating.
Has the pandemic changed your outlook on things, how you are gonna approach film? And
I can say, I mean, like with The Intelligent, you know, I have a producer who's bankrolling the film. It is a certain budget, and you know, it's not that $200,000 SAG ultra low. But I feel like with Installation, the Palm Springs movie, I can control that. I can control those elements. And with everybody that we've been talking to that are part of the crew, everybody understands from the top that there is going to be a process from the beginning, that we are going to ask people to self-quarantine within our bubble, and that you are not engaging in activities that could put you at risk, and that there will be testing that you have to do.
Right.
And that's to keep everybody safe. And I know that I can control that with a small group of people. And yes, it means that you're not going to have craft service. You know, now you might be paying a $10 stipend to your crew, but that's the safest thing, because that's where the germs are. So I know people that are like giving crew a certain stipend to bring their own craft service, which is smart. So, and then catering will be, you know, here's the menu. What do you want? This is the dollar amount you have, and we'll box lunch it based from a food source. We do not make movies for craft service and food. Unlike a lot of background talent, that's not how we make movies. We try to get the movie done in the safest way possible.
Right.
And so that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to mean shooting in, you know, certain locations for a week, so we are not moving around and creating a huge footprint over Palm Springs. So the locations are being smart. How we place, there's one scene where there's probably going to be about 10 to 12 background people, but
Right.
they'll all be placed within, you know, 10 feet of each other, so that they're not on top of each other, or they're a real couple in real life and they've been tested together as well. So
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting time. I mean, the lessons we're going to learn from 2020 are just going to you know, be good. I think you know, it's put at the forefront how important hygiene is in society.
yeah,
You know, and things, you know, we might take for granted. You know, maybe we're not always 100% safe. We need to be 200% safe right now. You know, and it's just helping everybody out, and it's all gonna work out. I'm positive.
yeah.
Optimistic about it. Here's a random question. What is one misconception that people have about Chad Darnell?
Oh, misconception. I don't even know how to answer that question. I mean, there's so
You don't
many
have to.
misconceptions about me. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, I have a very thick skin. I don't. I think that the one misconception is that I think a lot of actors often think that I don't like them. I think that's a fair assumption.
Because you're a direct person. You're
Yeah, I'm very direct, and
yeah.
I had, you know, I've definitely brought people in, and I've told them, you're wasting my time, because you are. I mean, if you're not training, if you're not studying, if you're not even trying, you're wasting my time.
Because you're not there to hold their hand.
No, and I can't teach you. I mean, I can only teach you so much, but that's a classroom. That's working with another actor. You coming into audition is not a free class. You're wasting my time, because it's not, because if you can't nail it in front of me, I can't put you on a crew and a cast with talented working actors.
And that reflects back on you. That yeah, you've put your seal of approval on them, you know, to take them to that next stage, and then they get there, and then all of a sudden they're just a pretty face, or you know, or they just totally bungle the whole thing. Then they're like, you know, what did you send me here? You know?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not reasonable. And so I think that, you know, I'm sure that I always have to be very, very careful of, I always try to, when an actor comes into the room, I always try to make them feel comfortable. I always try to make them feel safe, and like they, you know, this is a room to play in. But at the same time, if you come in and you're not prepared, if you've had that page of dialogue for a week and you don't have your lines down, you're gonna feel my wrath, because you're wasting my time. And again, I feel like that's the only, you can't, as a but any casting director is going to do that. No casting director is going to, oh, well, better luck next time because you had a week to learn these 2 lines.
This isn't one of those shows where they pick the talent and they come out there and they're like, because I've been on some of those shows, and well, you know, behind the scenes, and they go through a screening process. You know, they sit in front of the producers. You bring like 30 or 40 people in. This is pre-COVID, you know, or 10 at a time, and then they all, okay, sing or do what your thing is, and then they're like, we'll let you know. Thank you for coming in, and then boom,
Yeah.
make it so they don't go to the next round. There's a lot of pre-qualifying to get to that point. So
And a lot of times they'll say like, "Oh, I just got this last night." Big deal.
Fault.
You're going to show up on set and they're going to give you whole new pages to learn. So yeah,
Say what?
just professionalism and training that that comes with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question: Is
Yes.
there anything that you might consider a pitfall, like maybe earlier in your career, from any of the things that you've done, from acting, directing, producing? Is there something that you might have conceived as a pitfall and learned from? I mean, there's probably a bunch of things early in your career that you've done, and you said, "Well, I'll approach this differently." Like maybe in casting, or maybe acting, or is that hard to nail down? That's
No, there was. I mean, the one experience. The one thing that I think. There was a time on a TV miniseries like in 1990.
something.
2, 3, early. It was early on. It was a miniseries called The Oldest Living Confederate Widow Tells All. Diane Lane, Donald Sutherland. I was doing the extras casting on it.
Mhm.
And I had not turned 21 yet. So I was 20 years, because I turned 21 over the course of the show. But I was, so I was 20 years old. I was working for Cynthia Stillwell. But I was the point person on that show. And we were shooting down South Georgia. And we were shooting this big reenactment scene. And all these reenactors were supposed to show up, and they didn't. And we did not cast them. They came from the reenactor coordinator. But so, they were supposed to have like 200 extras, and there was nobody. And so the scene, they were screwed. And so I went into survival mode for production. I went and talked to the costume designer, and I said, start calling Norcosco and Atlanta Costume and all these different places, see how many Civil War costumes they can get us. I'll go into town to the local college and start booking kids and have teenage guys and have them show up on set. Send me sizes and text me sizes. This was before texting, so they would call me on my cell phone, my car phone, and or I think I had a beeper, so we're doing all of this, and then suddenly the production manager just kind of killed the whole thing. And I had been sending people to set, and he decided that they were not going to pay these people. And they had been hired to do the job, and they'd left the school to go do it. And I was furious when I got back to that set. I mean, I'm 20 years old, but I was furious that I had been busting my ass to make this happen for them. And this had been a game plan. And then it was suddenly like, just stop everything. And he came up to me, and he was so he was so he couldn't believe that we had tried to do this and that it was working, number one, but he didn't want to pay for the expense. The costumes were going to be very, very expensive. So that was the whole thing. And I'm like, why are I told you that this would happen. And he started screaming at me, it's just an effing movie, Chad. It's just an effing movie. And that was the first time in my life that I stopped and pulled back, and I was like, what do you mean it's just a movie? And it really did change the way that in every production since then, when there's been this issue that comes up, I think back to that conversation where he said, it's just an effing movie. And my friend Cindy, she painted this little poster that hung I think it's still in my bedroom at home in my parents' house. It was the two of us bunkered down. It's just a effing movie. And but it's in conversations when I've had to go head to head with producers, and the thing that made me really good about casting is that I've always told people, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I have, these are the resources, I can't do this, I can do this. And in Savannah, after we did Lizzie, I had a line that's I'm not a sorcerer. You can't come to Savannah and think that you're going to cast your entire movie here. And there have been productions that have come to town, and they saw that we cast a lot of locals, and they were like, what do you mean you can't cast my period film where all of the men have to be a size 42 coat or smaller and all have facial hair? Because that's the period, and that's the thing. And they think that we can cast all the principals the speaking actors who are going to go toe to toe with Academy Award winners as actors. And I'm like, I'm not a sorcerer. And that became my line that I've used on every film since then.
Wow.
And I think that as I've gotten older, I can see the complication, and I can see what I told them, I do not have this actor here in town. I know I don't. I know the market. So
right.
I'm not a sorcerer. So I'd say that was the pitfall was my passion for trying to always solve a problem. I've always tried to be the problem solver on a set, which made me a good producer. But to a fault, where it's like I was all in, and production's like it's just a effing movie.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind.
To feel so passionate about something, you want to connect every dot. You want to make it extremely perfect. It's like you don't even want to try it if it can't be perfect.
Yeah.
I understand that feeling all too well. And
there have been movies where the one film that I refer to as the worst film experience of my entire life, and I've worked on 115 of them, but the worst one was a film that shot in Savannah, and it was just from the top down, it was a total cluster. It was you could not, there was no way to feel like you were doing a good job because there was so much disrespect, and it was across the board. I was not the only one.
Total toxic environment.
So toxic, and it was the way that we were being treated was, and this is before the real big boom of Savannah, and it wasn't Magic Mike. It was one with Adam Sandler, and
well, I've heard of this. Yeah,
and it was the worst experience of my. I don't think that I'll ever have an experience
wow.
I honestly don't think that I will ever be. Well, I would never. Roles reversed now, I would have quit that film. I should have quit that film. It was just so, I was disrespected every single day to the point that it was, they were trying to disrespect me.
Wow.
It was, so I would, yeah. But it makes for a good story. Not one that I'm going to tell on your show, but privately, it's like people's jaws are on the ground. One day it will be in my book, you should have been nicer to me.
Well, I've had my share, even recently, of some toxic people in the industry, and people you think have got your back, and then you find out they're not really in your corner as much as you think, or and so it's interesting to see people's true colors, and a lot of people shake your hand and they think you're their buddy and all that, and if you're new to the industry, you're kind of like, yeah, everybody's great, everybody's wonderful, they're wonderful, you're all wide-eyed, and you learn that there are snakes here and there, and in a way it is just an industry. It's just,
yeah,
but it's hard not to take some of that to heart. You do have to have a thick skin, like you said, and it's difficult. It can be disheartening. But yeah, when you have a total toxic environment like that, I've walked away from projects because I just didn't feel right. Something didn't seem right, and one I walked away from, I was totally right on, and another one I walked away from, there was really no other choice than what I made. And but I regret that film. The version that came out of the film has won so many awards, and it's so relevant today in these times, especially in 2020. I wish that my name was on it, and but I was kind of caught between two warring parties and two totally different visions of the same exact film, and I'm like, I'm just a sound mixer here. I'm just here to record,
Yeah.
And the creator's version is the one that went on, and it's been wildly successful. So, you live and you learn, and you move on, and it's on to the next thing. And anyway, we got to bring this to a close. I apologize for if there were any technical difficulties that were in there. I don't know how this is all going to end up because my editing and all that. But thank you, Chad, for a fantastic show. Thank you for taking the time and being here through all of this. And everybody who's watching in the future, it's already Saturday when you're watching this. Thank you for all your questions and comments that you've given along the way. Please subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, Savannah on Film. We're, hit that thumbs up button. Thank you for your comments. Enable notifications for our new shows that'll be coming out. And if you're interested in being on Savannah on Film, we're savannahonfilm@gmail.com. We're on Instagram also, Savannah on Film. I forgot my tag on there. It's a different. Anyway, we're on Instagram. You'll find us. And of course, the Facebook page, if you want to go over and like that and follow that, that's where you'll always see a lot of the updates, what's coming on the show and all that stuff and what's happening in the industry. And that's Savannah on Film on Facebook. And anyway, got to end the show. So fascinating show. Thank you so much, Chad. I really honestly mean that. And I wish you 10,000% success in your career. And next time you come back, who knows what you'll be doing by then.
Yeah, true.
All
right.
thank you again. You have
Thanks.
a great day.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.